Welcome to the Experience Darden podcast. I'm your host, Brett Twitty, and you are listening to a new episode. On this episode of the podcast, I'm excited to feature a conversation I recently recorded with two second-year students in our class of 2020, Rachel Leitner and Casey Skittle. Rachel and Casey are both leaders in our healthcare club here at Darden, and we recently sat down to talk a little bit about their backgrounds, what attracted them to Darden, what they have planned for Healthcare Week, and their advice for prospective students. For those of you who are considering the MD, MBA dual degree, you're going to want to check out this episode. Casey is a dual degree student herself. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Rachel Leitner and Casey Skittle. Casey, Rachel, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right. So I kind of backed into this a little bit. I did not realize it was going to be Healthcare Week when we were sitting down recording this. So what a great time to be affiliated with the Healthcare Club. And so I'm sure we'll talk about that. But before we get there, let's talk about you. Let's start with you, Casey. Who are you and what's your background?
Yep. So my name's Casey. I'm the current president of the Darden Healthcare Club. My background's a little bit unique in that I'm a dual degree student. So I'm a dual medical and business student. Before starting graduate school, worked in healthcare consulting in the federal space. Decided to pursue an MBA because I knew that I wanted to work in hospital administration, and I think with everything that's going on in healthcare and the many touch points that healthcare now has, having the business background is very important in leading in a healthcare environment.
How about you, Rachel?
Hi, I'm Rachel, everyone. I'm coming to Darden most recently from San Francisco, where I was a product manager at a life science company. And then before that, I also worked in healthcare consulting. So I decided to come back to business school to kind of round out the core business foundation skills. Being a biology major in undergrad, I really missed out on core like finance and accounting classes. And so just to continue building my career in the healthcare industry, I wanted to come back and just build a really solid foundation with those skills. And so really enjoying Charlottesville and the wonderful community here. And the case study method in particular has been an awesome experience here at Darden.
So how did you find out about Darden? Is it a school you've always known about? Did it show up on your radar as part of your research? How about you, Rachel?
It actually was a recommendation of a friend, a past alumni. As I was applying, he was like, wait a minute, you're not even thinking about Darden. I think that could be a really great fit for you and something interesting to diversify kind of the geographic areas you've been. I grew up in New York, lived in Boston, and then most recently in San Francisco, like I said, kind of big cities, coastal cities, but I never had like a real true like college town experience. And so came and interviewed, had a really great feeling once I was on campus, and then talked to my friend further about the case study method and really got to understand what the Socratic method is all about here. And I was hooked on Darden. It was the right fit for me.
How about you, Casey?
So I had been working in the D.C. area, so a lot of UVA grads there, and I don't think I've ever met a group of people that loved their undergrad so much. I think all of them already have plans to retire here. And I went down with a few of them to look at it and loved Charlottesville. Additionally, when I looked at MD MBA programs, there were, I think, only about 20 in the country. There weren't very many. And similar to Rachel, I'd been a chemical engineering undergrad, didn't have as much business background, and knew that I wanted a school that I would have a great learning opportunity at, and I think the case method is something that I knew was going to provide that for me. I'm not a great public speaker, and I knew it was going to be a stretch experience, so really wanted that when I was looking for business schools. So Darden felt like the right fit.
Let's talk about the case method, because I do think it's one of these things that for prospective students it can feel a little intimidating at times. It also is a little unclear exactly as to what it is. You get that question too. How would you explain it to a prospective student? You know, what is the case method? What are those classes like?
I can start with this one. So the case method, how do I describe it? So it's based on, so you read prior to coming to class a case. There's usually questions that are associated with that case, and you kind of answer them on your own time, and then you come to class, and the class session is spent as a discussion. So the teacher actually takes a back seat to the discussion and helps guide it, but oftentimes we'll usually start with the opening question, what is the decision in the case? And the class really just rolls from there, and it's a really cool experience because you see people bring up these new points, you build on what other people have said, and it's it's funny because class is, I think, an hour and 25 minutes, and it feels like it goes by in no time at all because
so
it's
fast.
it's just your students talking in a conversation, and you learn a ton that way.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. I mean, it's definitely a very challenging MBA program because of the case study method. But I personally picked it because I feel like I absorb more information when I'm involved in the topic. So instead of being like lectured at and you're just sitting there kind of information being pushed at you, the case study method really makes you dive in and learn the material. And you learn through the struggle of it, right? Like you haven't had a class about the topic yet. And so it's really on you and also your classmates to do homework and pre-work before class, which I feel like just makes the subject stick a little bit better than a traditional lecture style MBA. Which is a big reason I think people pick Darden in particular as the case study method is so strong here and just really academically rigorous. So I'm always up for a challenge, and I definitely am drawn to just things in life in general that are more challenging because I feel like they're more rewarding. And I really think that the Darden MBA is just that.
I feel like that's a mode for most Darden students. You wouldn't choose this if you wanted an easy path? I don't think.
I don't think so.
So what's that like to navigate as a dual degree student?
It hasn't been. So they do it very well here at UVA, which is nice. So we are mostly a business student when we're a business student, and a med student when we're a med student. So I did the first 3 years of medical school. We took all of our board exams, and then we come into the MBA, which is really nice. And there are a lot of great healthcare opportunities here at Darden. So a lot of the cases will actually be based on healthcare topics, which has been nice. And that's one, I don't help out very much in the finance area, but it is nice when we have a healthcare, topic in class. That's somewhere where I can actually maybe add something to class, which is another thing that's kind of cool about the case method. Everyone is required to take the core together. So you'll have investment bankers, consultants, previous teachers all in the same classroom, and everyone's able to draw on their previous experiences, and you learn a lot from people's background.
Has that been your experience, Rachel?
Yeah, that's definitely been my experience. And I was going to add too, MD, MBA students even participate in the internships at Darden as well. We have classmates of ours who are doing the similar program to Casey, and they participated in consulting internships last summer too, which I think is really cool, and that's unique, I think, to Darden. But the class method is great. And like Casey said, we all take the same classes in core, which not all business schools do. And I think it's really beneficial because it sets a very level playing field for building a foundation off of in second year. Even though some people come in with consulting and finance and accounting backgrounds, they still have to retake those classes. And they are there to enhance the learning of others. But I think they really learn a lot themselves, too, just from listening to the perspectives of different peers. Like someone that comes in, CPA with an accounting background, for example, listening to people like Casey and I talk about our experience in the healthcare industry, they might not have ever even interacted with someone in our industry. And so as we're sharing stuff openly in class in the core, everybody's learning from each other, which makes it a really powerful learning experience.
Yeah, the first year, I was struck. I was actually recording a podcast episode with Mike Lennox earlier today, and he was talking about you really don't have to – you have work to do, and certainly, but you don't have to think about where you're supposed to be next as a first-year student, at least during those first 3 quarters. It's regimented, right? You have your schedule. You do X number of cases a day. It's Monday through Thursday, that sort of thing. And, in some ways that has to be nice because it has a predictability to it. Obviously an intensity to it as well, but just allows you to kind of focus on what you're trying to do, what's in front of you.
Yeah, and I think it builds camaraderie, too, because you're kind of all in that pattern together. Everybody shows up at the same time and goes to class at the same time. And then we have this really cool thing here at Darden called First Coffee, which is a break between our first and second classes at 9:30 a.m. every day. And so everybody's in this one rotunda room networking together and getting to know each other and stressing together. So the whole experience, the way it's structured, like you're going through it with this group of people, and it really builds a cohesive network.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes we call it type 2 fun. So type 1 fun is when you're trying to have fun. Type 2 fun is when it's a little bit more of a struggle, but makes it fun because you're all together.
Yeah, I was curious, Casey, about your experience. Obviously, to go through 3 years of medical school, then to take your boards, and you're not done yet.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Business school, and welcome to Darden and the core experience. And, how do you, not necessarily remain optimistic during that, but, how do you just kind of take it one step at a time?
Yeah. So I think the schedule is really important. So it's nice that you have the schedule and that you're going through it with other people. I will say that it's been an interesting experience because business school is very different from med school, and that med school, I felt like it was a lot of studying on my own time, whereas business school is a lot of kind of being turned on, I would say. So having that time in class where you're very present and in the conversation is much different than being home studying on your own. And I think because of that, it was so different. It kind of was like this new experience that I was excited about, and it was a bit refreshing. But I think that knowing that you came to class every day, it was 8 to 1, having that schedule, and then also having, I feel like all the social activities keeps you really just refreshed and alive. But it is a lot.
Mm-hmm. How's second year going so far?
Second year has been really great. Not as regimented of a schedule, of course, because we're able to now pick our own classes, but still just as busy. It's shifted more from busy core casework with learning teams to clubs. So Casey and I are both on the healthcare club. I'm also involved in the Graduate Women in Business Club, GWIB for short. And so planning events for those. This week is Healthcare Week, so Casey and I have been really busy putting together a schedule of speakers and different events for that. So it's still pretty busy, just a different kind of busy, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. UVA, I think, even in the undergraduate degree, has a kind of culture of owning a lot of things as students. So as a second year, I think being involved in the clubs, you get to own a lot of activities. And there's just a lot of areas, I think, with Charlottesville being such a small town, to get involved also in the community. So definitely a little bit less on the classwork side, but I feel almost more busy this year.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
But it's things that you're kind of choosing your own path and really getting to have kind of ownership over things that you were looking to be involved in.
Well, I want to talk about Healthcare Week, but I also want to talk a little bit before we get to that about sort of the academic path in the second year. It's sort of an ongoing question I've been asking the second year students who come on the podcast, because we get a lot of prospective students asking about specialization, concentration, specialization. And I just don't hear that from the second year students in terms of the choices that they're making, at least in all of the electives. There's this curiosity that seems to be at play. What courses are you planning to take, or what path have you chosen for yourself in the second year?
Yeah, so I have a goal of going into the investing in healthcare space after Darden, specifically thinking venture capital or private equity, but still kind of recruiting and filling that out. So for that reason, I'm taking a mix of finance classes. I'm in private equity next quarter. I'm taking valuations, a derivatives class. So trying to mix that in with some core kind of marketing-esque classes. And Casey and I are both involved in this really cool class / opportunity here at UVA Darden called the Seed Fund, which is actually a venture capital firm associated with the university. And we get class credit to go and sit at the UVA Licensing and Venture Group for 2 hours every Wednesday. And we actually have entrepreneurs in the community come in and pitch their business ideas to us. And then we pair up in teams and diligence these companies and make real-world investment decisions. So you get opportunities like that second year where you're not even in the classroom at Darden. You're out in the seed fund, or Darden Capital Management is something similar, kind of doing more like apprenticeship type classes, which I feel is a really great opportunity that Darden has.
How about you, Casey?
I echo all of those things. I similarly have liked a lot of the investing classes, so I'm taking a lot of those, but also have found a new passion for data. So I'm taking a lot of data analysis classes, and additionally, in one of the extracurriculars I was involved in called Net Impact Group, there's a board fellows program where you're allowed to partner with the board in the community and serve on that board for a year. I'm working with the Charlottesville Free Clinic here, which provides healthcare at no cost for community members without insurance. And one of the things I'm looking to do is use some of that data analysis to work with them to look into specifically what levers can we pull to increase enrollment at the Charlottesville Free Clinic. So it's been a really interesting way to kind of use some of what I'm learning, work with partners in the community, kind of pair those two passions.
No, that's great. One of my favorite podcast episodes from last year was the conversation with Net Impact, and had a couple of the student leaders from that organization on the podcast and talked about all sorts of things. But I think there's so much interest amongst prospective MBA students to do something good with their MBA, not just to come and get a job and make a lot of money, but their values are important, and finding a company that aligns with that. And so it's great talking with them about that too. What's Healthcare Week all about this year?
Yep, so I can start with that. So Darden allots a week for a lot of the industry groups on campus. So there's the Healthcare Club, there's the EVC group, and the purpose of the week is it's an opportunity for us to really showcase our club by looking at what opportunities there are in the business world, by also using it to provide some educational experiences in the healthcare space, and also giving opportunities to network with first and second years who may have worked in the space previously. So we're really excited about Healthcare Week. We kicked it off this morning with our first coffee, which we sponsored today in partnership with the Outreach Group, and doing a breast cancer awareness first coffee. And the rest of the week, we're planning a couple events that are targeted towards, again, kind of the networking between first and second years. We have a health policy professor coming in. Medtronic's going to come in and bring some of their devices. And we have, I think, one of the first flu shot clinics at Darden, so we're very excited about that. But it's a very cool way to kind of showcase what healthcare means to Darden. So,
what are you excited about Healthcare Week?
I'm always excited to hear the guest speakers we have come on campus. Every year we have somebody kind of different from within the industry in Healthcare Week, and just learning about their perspective on the industry they're coming to talk to. It's always great. Also interacting with the first years more who are specifically interested in our industry. So I've already reached out actually to a first year I met today at one of our events, and we're going to have coffee tomorrow to talk about her experience because she was actually in the healthcare investing space before. So it's a great opportunity for first and second years interested in that industry to commingle as well. Everyone here at Darden is networking, and we're all here to help each other. And so when we have these weeks that focus on a specific industry, you get to just meet everybody who's interested in your space, which is really nice.
So both of you had healthcare experience before coming to business school. There's a lot of prospective student interest in healthcare. Generally, I feel like this has been obviously a subject matter that's been in the public discourse for a number of years now. What's the case for Darden for people who have a healthcare interest?
I think that, Darden does not have a specific minor in healthcare like some schools do, but we do have a really strong network of people who are in the industry at Darden, as well as people affiliated with the medical school here. So it's a great way to network with people within the industry, but also Darden is a general MBA program. And so in order to be successful in any industry, including the healthcare industry, it's really important to have solid foundation in management skills. And I think that that's the value prop of Darden for the healthcare industry. Come build out a really strong basis in accounting and finance and in your strategy skills. And you will go far in any industry. And those bode well in the healthcare industry as well.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up that point about sort of healthcare specialization or concentration, because you think sometimes people who have that professional interest are really looking for that, and so you emphasize versatility and that sort of breadth. Does that resonate with you, Casey? Any other thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe in that completely, and I also just want to reiterate: you don't have to have a background in healthcare to end up working in healthcare, and I think Darden does a good job of that, and that's one of the reasons we have things like Healthcare Week, because we do make it a lot about education as well in the healthcare space, so that people that may not have had a background in healthcare can become a little bit more familiar with the space in preparing to interview or preparing to apply.
It's one of those interesting industries in that you are reasonably certain, if not 100% certain, that it will affect everyone at some point in their lives, right? And
it's always going to exist, right? The industry is not going anywhere. It's growing. Medicine's becoming more personal, which, biotech, it's just evolving into something very cool, and having solid business background is going to bode really well in the industry.
Yeah, so let's talk about the dual degree real quick. I don't want to make you the full spokesperson for the dual degree, but we get this question from prospective students, who are thinking about an MBA or plus another degree, or looking at med school and thinking about possibly doing an MBA. How did you think about the two together?
Yep. So I knew that I wanted to do it before applying to medical school, and I think it had to do with working in consulting previously. But I did talk to quite a few people at the hospital itself, and I think I had one mentor specifically that actually said kind of the same exact thing you just said, and he did not have an MBA, but was working in a leadership position in the hospital, and felt that the way healthcare is moving, the more pieces and parts that are now coming into play, so all the technology, all the new strategy, as hospitals are now trying to move into various spaces, the MBA is very useful because of the same things you just said, so that those core, the investing, the finance, the strategy, knowledge that you may not have gotten previously in medicine education are becoming much more important as hospitals are evolving. So that was a big reason why I chose to pursue it. And I think additionally, just because I felt the knowledge was so important, and not just the finance knowledge, but the kind of soft skills that they mentioned. So I think the leadership that comes along with going to an MBA program, this ability to talk in front of a classroom and build off what other people are saying is so important. And you don't get a lot of those opportunities in some of the other degrees as much as you get in the business side of things.
What you said about healthcare changing and the perspective if you're going to be a leader in the space resonates with a lot of the conversations I've had with doctors in our executive MBA program who've gotten to a place in their career, they might be 15 to 20 years into their practice, and all of a sudden they realize, if I really want to be, at the head of this organization or to help take my practice forward, this is all changing. It's so much more business at a certain level than it is even healthcare.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of question around whether you do the MBA later in your career or earlier. And I, after talking to a lot of people, felt earlier was the path for me, just because there's a lot of things I want to do using the MBA now. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, the doctors that I've talked to, they more realized that it was a training that I don't know if it was a plan all along. My impression is that there was a moment of oh man, I'm lacking something here. So what advice would you share with prospective students? You both in your second year here, probably a little bit removed from the application process, but nevertheless, you probably talked to a fair number of prospective students who want to learn about Darden. What do you highlight for them about the experience, or what advice do you have for them?
I definitely invite prospective students to come to campus as soon as they're thinking about applying. There's a feeling about Darden and Charlottesville and the community in general that I think is really special. We're a top-ranked MBA school, and UVA, the whole network's fantastic as well. But when you visit Charlottesville, you get a very special community feeling that definitely should influence your decision to apply. A personal highlight of mine is getting to take advantage of the worldwide courses that Darden offers. So just this past May, I went on a trek to Japan with 30 other students and a professor. And I'm also doing another one over our J term, which is in January, to Bahrain and Dubai. And that's a really awesome thing that Darden offers students here, the chance to travel abroad, travel to countries that you might not normally travel to on your own with a professor. And then you get to go behind the scenes at some of the local businesses and work with the entrepreneurs in those countries. And you get to know how business is operated in those countries. And, the world is shrinking. Businesses are becoming more multinational every day. And it's really great exposure to get to, go in firsthand and spend a couple weeks in these countries with professors.
What was the focus of the Japan DWC?
Japan was called Old World Meets New World. And so we went to very traditional Japanese companies like Kyocera, who's been there forever, and Toyota, and we got to actually go inside Toyota's assembly line and see how they've implemented this process called Kaizen and see how they've streamlined the most efficient assembly line in the world. But then we also went to really new flourishing companies, so that there's a budding entrepreneurship sense in Japan right now, and people who are starting biotech startups. And we think over the course of 2 weeks, we visited 14 different companies. Wow. So we were really moving around Tokyo and Kyoto. And then we had a little fun, too. We got to visit some of the temples and, more cultural things, too. So it's educational, but it's also a very cultural experience.
And what will the focus of Bahrain, Dubai be?
So I actually don't know. I actually just got accepted today into that. So yeah, I'm really excited. But obviously they do focus on the business aspect of these countries. So we'll definitely be going into local companies and industry in Bahrain and Dubai. But I'm excited about the experience.
Yeah, two very different places, Japan. And your experience in the Middle East will be interesting having those as a comparison.
Yeah, totally. But, that's what business school for me was all about. Let's get new experiences, learn about new cultures. And Darden really gives you ample opportunities to do that.
So, Casey, any advice that you would have?
Yeah, so I think the big thing would be to talk to students, to hear about those experiences. So I think, especially when you talk to Darden students, I feel like you can't get us to stop talking about Darden. But I think that that's a really good way to learn about what's available. And you can hear the excitement in people's voice when they're talking about something that they've really enjoyed. And I almost underestimated, honestly, how important the student experience is here. And I think it has made a big difference in my educational experience. So.
Yeah, one of the interesting things I think as people go through the prospective student process tends to start with rankings, right? That's where a lot of people begin. Yeah. And then as you get deeper into the process, the more I think you start to value things like culture and the experience you'll have, the people you'll be surrounded by. Maybe you go on a couple of campus visits and you realize, okay, these schools are very, very different than each other, and I need to start paying more attention to this kind of thing. One of the many reasons why we're big believers in the campus visit, because there's a lot of great schools out there. It's important that everybody finds the school that's the best best school for that person, and that's an easy way to start to do that.
One thing I definitely should add, though, a huge value of Darden is the alumni network. So I actually had the opportunity, even before coming to Darden, to do some events with the Alumni Network out in the Bay Area. And they were so gracious in inviting me to networking events and introducing me to their community even before I had accepted. And it's a really powerful network. People are very proud to be Darden alums and to help each other out. And I really had no idea how valuable that was until I started the recruiting process last year for my internship this past summer. For example, this morning, I sent an email to a Darden alum. I think he was 2008 or 2009. And he's the president and CEO of a huge biotech and life science company in the Bay Area, a multi-billion-dollar company. Sent him a quick email. Hey, I'm a fellow Darden alum. I'm really interested in, connecting with you next time I'm out there. And he wrote back within an hour. And that has happened over and over to myself and to my peers. And that's a super powerful thing about the Darden network that should not be taken lightly. Like, that should definitely weigh into prospective students' decision, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think even beyond the Darden network, but the UVA network, the CommSchool network, I think when you say UVA or Darden, it really, the blue and orange goes deep, I think. So.
Yeah, we always encourage admitted students to really take full advantage of being an admitted Darden student. Reach out to everybody. Certainly if you're an incoming student, you have a lot of people who will want to talk to you about what Charlottesville was like, what Darden was like, and really share in their experience. So, well, thank you both. I realize, that for context, our listeners may not realize this is a little bit later on a Monday here recording this. You've had a full day of, obviously the kickoff of Healthcare Week. So thank you both for finding the time. Casey, Rachel, it's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed the conversation.
Thanks for having us.
And that was my conversation with Rachel Leitner and Casey Skittle, 2 second-year students in our class of 2020. As always, if you have any comments, suggestions, requests, anything you'd like for us to cover here on the podcast, we're all ears. We can be reached at darden@virginia.edu. And until next time, thanks for listening.